We prepared as best we could, unsure what each day had in store for us. We put our very best foot forward and set off for new horizons. We all knew this would push us to our limits. Our intention was strong. We planned for the worst and hoped for the best. This is the LifeWalk Challenge.
Basically gave everybody about 17 weeks of preparation. We've told people that even if they're runners or like myself who are cycling or whatever and gym work, it's still a different form of exercise. And what we've done is we've created 4 to 5 walks where we'll meet on a Sunday and walk together. And these walks will be 2 to 3 hour walks just to get us together and to meet as a group, and also to give people an idea of what it's going to take in between those walks to actually get fit enough for the challenge. We started off with a walk around, if you like, around the Gargua Nashar area of 14 kilometers. And believe me, it was quite surprising the effect it had on a number of people. They got quite a shock when they realized that walking 14 kilometers is no joke. So the idea behind LifeWalk was we were always looking for, if you like, a subculture of life cycle, and a lot of people weren't able to do life cycle itself because of the intensity and the dedication designed towards building up for such an extreme cycle challenge. So what we did was we thought about how can we get more people involved, and we came up with the idea of LifeWalk. LifeWalk will be taking off the same sort of fundamentals as what Life Cycle initiated originally, and that was to do an extreme challenge to show the public and the media that we are willing to go that extra mile in order to raise money for renal patients. The idea is to walk the full length of the Roman Wall, which is from the west coast of England to the east. It'll be approximately 90 miles, which is approximately 150 kilometers. We'll be walking around about 35 to 40 kilometers per day for 4 days. And at the moment we've got 36 participants who are willing to do such a challenge, which is incredible really, considering the climate we're living in at the moment. So this is not something like a stroll in the park. It's going to be a real challenge.
Regret to announce the delay of flight 4022 to Athens due to depart at 13:45. This flight is now scheduled to depart.
The people you see here are about to embark on a long-distance trek that will push each of them to their very physical and mental limits. Their intention is to trek 148 kilometers across the UK in as little as 4 days along the historical Hadrian's Wall, the most visible and best-known land frontier of the Roman Empire. The team meets at the morning rally point and goes through their gear and equipment one last time before they set out. The team morale was good, and most were eager to get their feet moving, whilst others calmly made sure that they had packed everything they needed in their rucksacks. Each trekker brought with them their own individual essentials. However, having a light load and plenty of water seemed to be priorities for everyone. The journey starts from the quiet village of Bowness-on-Solway in northwest Cumbria, where the team made their way to the initial checkpoint of the challenge. The initial objective today is to walk in parallel with the channel of River Esk in the direction of Carlisle and then head southeast along the River Eden. The hours of constant rain itself didn't bother the trekkers too much. It just made it so much harder to walk on, as it created boggy terrain in certain parts of the trail, causing clumps of mud to form and stick to the bottom of the trekkers' boots, making every step of the way that much heavier, that much more tedious. The roads and pathways quickly became very slippery, and every step of the way required the trekkers' full attention and focus. The kissing gates they encountered along the way were designed to keep livestock in their separate pastures, allowing only one person at a time to get through. They gave the trekkers time to catch up with each other. Overall, having the gates as regular checkpoints made life easier. At times, just spotting the next gate gave a sense of relief to the team, as it confirmed they were walking on the right path. The wind kept the trekkers constant company as they progressed through acres of farmland, heading toward an ancient Roman fortification site known as the Bank's East Turret. Not having spotted the wall yet, and after all the mileage already put in, might have been a little disheartening to some. But as indicated by many information posts along the way, most of the wall in this part of the countryside was barely visible anymore. At times, the path disappeared and the trekkers walked on the long country roads instead. Some enjoyed this, as the tarmac offered a little bit more grip and a little less slip when walking. Others found that walking on flat roads for so long added pressure on their knees and strained their ankles. The trekkers are pretty much in one big group at this point and are all making good progress on their first day. And there it is, the first sighting of the Roman Wall. Trekkers were thrilled to be here, and their spirits felt refreshed and somehow invigorated. The effort they all put in to finally arrive at this site was well worth it, as being here meant their final checkpoint for the day was only a couple of kilometers away, sparking up visions of a hot dinner, a warm shower, and a soft bed to sleep in. The members of the LifeWalk team trek across dozens of grazing fields and flourishing meadows as they chase their final few kilometers of the day. They intend to follow the wall all the way east to Newtown, and their hope is to arrive at their final checkpoint by approximately 8 p.m. Yesterday, most of the trekkers made it to the final checkpoint without any major injuries, although some of them are experiencing fatigue and muscle pain already. The team set out for day 2 and planned to leave Newtown at sunrise and end in the village of Once Brood by sunset, which was 35 kilometers away. Even though this was one of the toughest parts of the trek, the landscape and environment was breathtaking, and the trekkers enjoyed the stunning views anytime they could. At this point, the steep climbs became a torment to the trekkers. They were faced with kilometers upon kilometers of rough, inclined terrain and slippery slopes. Even walking downhill for long distances felt uncomfortable. The wind at this point hit the group from all directions, as they have now reached one of the highest points of the wall. Many of the travel guides say that Hadrian's Wall is considered to be one of the easiest of the 16 national long-distance hiking trails in England. Fit walkers are recommended to allow 6 or 7 days to tackle the whole path. Some websites and travel blogs advise 8 to 10 days in order to make it less strenuous on the body and to better enjoy the experience. The LifeWalk team, which mostly comprised of inexperienced trekkers, have committed to trek the same walk in 4 days, and now they already find themselves almost halfway. The participants who chose to do this walk come from all walks of life: nurses, CEOs, accountants, rescue workers, retirees, ballet teachers, and even university lecturers. Their ages range from early 20s to late 60s, and only a handful of them have ever trekked long distances before. The motivations and intentions of each individual taking part in this trek may have been many at the start. A few maybe wanted to prove something to themselves. Others perhaps needed to push their minds and bodies to the limit as they are addicted to a sense of adventure and adrenaline. Or maybe simply wanted to try something new that is outside of their comfort zone. Be it as it may, the common intention and driving force behind this event was always the same: to increase awareness on kidney failure and raise funds for the renal patients in Malta. The group regrouped at Walltown Quarry Country Park, which is located approximately 9 kilometers away from the famous sycamore tree, or Robin Hood tree as it is commonly referred to. It was a good time to tend to any injuries, check their gear, and top up their drinking water as they prepare to set off for Mile Castle 42, where most of the trekkers plan to rendezvous by 4 p.m.
Have about 13, 14 left. Yeah, the problem is up there, though. But we're going faster again, can't we?
Sorry.
We're ready.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go with you.
No,
Thank you very much.
you need fresh off, I think.
This stretch of land was one of the most testing parts to traverse. At this point, some trekkers are experiencing extreme fatigue, severe foot pain, and shin splints. Even their secondary pairs of dry socks have succumbed to the wetness of the day. Everything is drenched. The backpack on their backs feels uncomfortable and heavy, and the bag straps keep chafing the trekker's shoulders with every step of the way. Blisters have become a common sight and somewhat accepted. And although the general energy level is still high, at this stage of the challenge, the mind starts playing tricks and creates doubt as it begins to question everything. This is where the true challenge begins for the trekkers. The moment they feel like they want to give up and throw in the towel is the moment they dig deep and push through. "Enjoy the moment," he said. "Remember why you were doing this," she said. "There is nothing to think about. Just do it," they said. Everyone encouraged everyone else. The trekkers make their way through some of the best preserved and most dramatic stretches of Hadrian's Wall. The core strength of this challenge lies in its most demanding sections, where huge views and incredible landscapes are won with long climbs through remote territory. And all the trekkers looked forward to reaching their final checkpoint for today, which was the village of Once Brood, only 5 kilometers away.
Fantastic walk. It was an absolutely amazing countryside. I couldn't get over it. Even me being from this area, I was absolutely stunned by it. Cumbria and Northumberland, probably two of the most unpopulated places. It was a real tough challenge. It was up and downs, and it was probably the hardest part of the walk. And we're now at Steel Rig, the famous Robin Hood's tree over the top we face tomorrow. We got some injuries, obviously, a few blisters and stuff, but it's been wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Different life cycle altogether, but really encourage anybody to do this. Beautiful part of the world, beautiful people, great.
Day 3 started like all other days just before it. After a few hours of sleep, a speedy breakfast, and a quick gear check, the team sets off at daybreak towards their first checkpoint of the day. This time, the LifeWalk trekkers are leaving the village of Once Brood to head to East Wallhouses, walking a total of 37 kilometers by dusk. The rain let up today, and the walkers were blessed with some morning sun, which occasionally emerged from behind the grey clouds. At this point of the challenge, people were more relaxed and got to know each other much better. Conversations about everything and nothing happened along the way, and in some way or another, this was comforting for certain members of the group, as they had something to talk about and perhaps served as a distraction from the physical pain or from the mental strains this challenge imposed upon them. Having someone there who is going through exactly the same thing as you are going through is comforting. Encouragement and support was well welcomed at this stage, as the day kicked off with the steepest climb yet, the sheer incline that led to Sycamore Gap. Today, the team is one person short, as a trekker needed to pull out of the challenge due to severe pain caused by shin splints. Overnight, he experienced severe swelling and pain in his lower leg, and it was determined that the risk of a stress fracture or prolonged injury caused by overexertion would be too much to take at this point, especially considering the daunting hills they were facing today. The team heads to the renowned Sycamore Gap, which hosts one of the most photographed trees in the country, a giant sycamore tree, also known as the Robin Hood tree. It is an instantly recognizable landmark and is one of the most iconic places the trekkers experienced during this challenge. The route follows well-defined paths. However, on the Roman wall path, there are some steep ascents and descents with undulations on the way down. By now, several separate groups are formed, and each are making their way to the next stop at Chester's Roman Fort and Museum in Cholerford. The team goes through a few more climbs and descents whilst enjoying some of the most breathtaking landscapes Hadrian's wall country has to offer.
Nibdew mill-bira. Il-bira ma kienx daqshekk. Kien ħafna drizzle, slowed us down, tifhem, kienna tlajja, ħafna tlajja. We didn't expect that much. Illum ma kienx daqshekk, pers li għamilna ħafna l-bira. Illum kienet iktar speċi pjaċevoli. Fil-bidu kienet naqribsa, kienna dawk steep hills. Imma overall mbagħad slowpjat, it-temp għadu jtina. Ħana illek, nuhu pjaċir l-ewwel qiegħed mal-grupp tal-Life Cycle, qiegħed ma' sħabi ċiklisti. U dik hija l-motivation. Qed tifhem għax nafhom, so we keep the pace, we keep each other's company. Di differenti, di xi ħaġa differenti. L-ewwel darba din is-sena kontili ngħidlu l-anbija, ġiet l-idea tal-LifeWalk, nispera li tibqa' ssir, għax anke nies li mhumiex daqshekk dilettanti tar-rota, they can join up for a good cause, qed tifhem? U the more the merrier.
Spirits are high, as they are now officially more than halfway through their challenge and are eagerly making their way towards Warwick. The landscape and environment began to change in this part of the trek, as a large part of the wall ran in parallel with the road. Naturally, the pace of the trek was slower today because many were still recovering from a tough first day. Many of the trekkers are now pushing themselves to their limits, and gradually but inevitably, everyone is feeling the heaviness of the days and the miles gone by. Although you wouldn't tell by looking at some of the trekkers' faces, as some of them seem to enjoy the grind. Most of the land in this area is covered with sheep-nibbled turf and dotted with wild flowers such as bird's foot trefoil and harebells. The skies and tree branches are vivid playgrounds for the crow, the house martin, the wheatear, the meadow pipit, and the agile swallow, each with their own distinct call or song.
This is autopilot mode. The legs are dead.
Naturally, cows are very curious creatures and are often approached with walkers along their tracks. One should never get too close to cows with their calves, as they are protective and easily become aggressive. The rule of thumb was always to walk calmly and avoid them where necessary. The importance of having healthy and dry feet on such a long trek is unparalleled. Many of them change their socks every 10 kilometers or so, an invaluable treat to any trekker. As parts of the wall disappeared once again, the team is forced to take the road for a couple of kilometers before making their way to the Chester Roman fort.
Quite tight, painful, but it's not easy to keep going at this point. Now it's downhill.
It's uphill.
It's uphill, you're kidding me.
It's another uphill.
You're kidding me. It's good fun. It is good fun, but when it comes to stuff, I'm thinking that somebody must be having it far worse than I am. So.
The team is less than 10 kilometers away from the final checkpoint of the day, which is the Robin Hood Inn, located in East Wallhouses. It felt strange. A few hours ago, it felt like the day would never end. Feet and legs hurt, backs felt sore, the weather kept changing and trekkers were famished and exhausted. However, just knowing that they are so close to completing their third day of the challenge made it all the more exhilarating. Once they reached Codlaw Hill, they walked in parallel with the military road for a while until they reached the Robin Hood Inn. At this point, the backup team was advised that one trekker was injured and couldn't carry on, and another trekker had taken the wrong trail and ended up an hour or so off track. Both needed to be picked up whilst the rest of the team celebrated together as day 3 came to an end. The morning of the final day of the challenge saw the trekkers walk 20 kilometers east, all the way through Harlow Hill and right across Hadrian on the Wall, which is roughly 15 kilometers west of the centre of Newcastle upon Tyne. Trees were replaced by tall buildings and acres of green farmland were replaced by long tarmac roads and concrete car parks. This morning, one trekker withdrew from the challenge due to exhaustion as the rest of the team walked through and across Throckley.
The only confusion was when we got to Hadrian, the village of Hadrian. We went down and it was a bit...
Was it?
It was a bit confusing. Once we got into the back road, it was fantastic.
You're well on track though, aren't you? Because I can't believe how far you've come. So you'd just be walking along now straight to the quayside. It's lovely along there, and it's not raining now.
This vibrant city welcomes the trekkers with a bang. This busy quayside and its bridges form one of the nation's most iconic views, world famous and symbolic of the city's rich heritage. The excitement is palpable, smiles are inevitable, as many of the trekkers speed up their pace for their final 10 kilometers. The final rally point is the car park of the Segedunum, the Roman fort at modern-day Wallsend. By now, it didn't matter if their legs were aching, or backs were sore, or even if they hadn't eaten anything in ages. All that mattered is that they were close to the finish line, and this served as the ultimate motivator. And as the trekkers each staggered in, the exhilarating feeling of completing this 4-day long-distance challenge took over. Congratulations were exchanged. Some couldn't fathom the idea of what they had been through over the last few days. walking 148 kilometers in 4 days was not an easy feat for anyone. Indeed, out of the 32 participants, 28 completed the entire challenge and 4 were discharged due to injury or exhaustion. Some wonder what's next. Others engage in conversations and exchange stories whilst a few squeeze in a final stretch to loosen up the body. This was the perfect time to phone a loved one back home and share the good news, as well as the perfect moment to confirm plans for another LifeWalk challenge next year in aid of kidney failure patients. As the final group comes in, their joy and relief transforms into a blissful cheer as each of them give in to the sense of triumph and achievement, and rightfully so. After all, what they accomplished is truly inspiring. No big checkered flags to mark the finish line, no welcoming committee to greet them after such a mammoth undertaking, no media or photographers to immortalize and share the moment. Yet, the sense of deep accomplishment and boundless satisfaction was undeniable. And there it is. The first ever LifeWalk challenge comes to an end, and every trekker looks forward to being home with their loved ones and sleeping easy in their own comfortable bed, knowing that they have truly accomplished one of the toughest challenges of their lives, and for a very worthy cause. Meanwhile, at the renal unit back in Malta, it's dialysis treatment day for many. There are hundreds of people receiving treatment today, and the youngest one is 20 years old, and the eldest is 89 years old. To undergo dialysis, a patient must first have a procedure to create an access point for the machine. This is typically done in the arm or the wrist, most often by connecting an artery and a vein together, as this provides ample blood flow and is necessary for an efficient filtration process. The patient needs to be connected to the machine 3 times a week for 4 hours every session and for the rest of their lives. This can be a very difficult and taxing time for many. Having supported the renal unit since 1999, the Lifecycle Malta Foundation has donated over €3 million to the cause and is the only registered NGO in Malta dedicated to helping renal failure patients. Through several collective efforts, they are able to offer sustained and professional support to kidney failure patients, boosting funding for research and prevention, improving the infrastructure at the renal unit, and offering psychological support to the patients and their families. The LifeWalk Challenge was a testament of perseverance and dedication, one that pushed the trekkers to their limits, and one that caused plenty of pain, aches, and throbs to everyone. However, as tough as it may have been, the trekkers understand that it's nothing compared to what the renal unit patients go through every day, and these people are the constant motivation behind the athletes and volunteers who support the Lifecycle Malta Foundation and its extreme challenges. So, on behalf of the committee, the administration team, and all the trekkers, we wish to thank everyone for their continuous and generous support. We will see you at the next Extreme Charity Challenge next year, and in the meantime, remember that together, we can make positive change happen quicker. Thank you.